All right, everybody, we are now on. Let me go make sure that I'm turning off some other thing. All right. Hopefully, I am not hearing myself on echo, but hearing myself on echo is a good thing because, for lack of a better word, um, that means everything is working, right? Welcome to our live. Um, I am Albert, your site manager here at Bolts Forever, and you are, and we are at my workplace. I think I've said, here and there that I am a high school teacher in my day job. So, welcome to my desk room. Today is it is a teacher work day. We had some professional training where I am. That ended not too long ago, and now we're ready to continue on with this mailbag, and I'll react to some of the comments on our site. Let me go ahead and write a comment on the site right now, just to say that we are live. Jesus. I'll first answer the questions, and then we'll go from there. All right. So uh, now that I'm live, and I'm gonna take a look at my smartphone, and let's just first go to the post to answer your questions at 4 p.m., which is now, on anything about the Wizards, Mystics, and more. And I may just give you some real time reaction on the comments on another piece we wrote today about Kyle Kuzma wanting to become more assertive. And those quotes came after the Phoenix Suns game this past weekend. It's not the game yesterday against the Mavs, by the way. All right, so I'm just going to go over and read the comments here. So, OK Now is the only person who commented. I looked at social media and no one else is commenting. I don't know if I'm just not able to engage people, but uh, before I get to his comment, make sure that you please give us a like on our playback channel. It is playback.tv/bullets forever. Also, um, I plan on soft launching a YouTube channel, which will simulcast some of the our live streams that you see with Kevin for many of the games. But you've started seeing Greg as well, and Renzo on some of the games as in addition. Um, in addition to Kevin, and I'm on there as well from time to time. So I think that YouTube channel will be a big help for us as we look to kick off 2025 in more platforms than just the website and just X. So with that being said, let me read the comment on the site. OK Now it has 3 questions. So first, what are the odds of any wizard being traded, especially Kuzma? First, I'll answer the question about the odds of any wizard getting traded. Well, it's either 0 or 100, right? Nobody got traded yet, so the answer is 0. All right, I'll be for real. I will say that it's pretty much a lock that this team is going to change before the NBA trade deadline on February 6th. There is a piece by Harrison Fagan on SBNation.com that that mentions it had a little blurb from me saying that Jonas Valanciunas is the player who is most likely to get traded if just one player um, ends up changing teams. I think we could say it's a safe bet that Valanciunas is going somewhere. I don't know what team, but that's going to be one player who I assume will be traded. Second, I would say Malcolm Brogdon seems like another solid candidate since he is a solid guard himself. He's played on better teams in the past. So I would say he is the second player whom the Wizards would be more likely to trade sooner rather than later. Brogdon's averaging 13.8 points per game, which are, and these are solid numbers. I know he hasn't played in a while, but you would assume that he is a candidate to go. As for Kuzma, I'm going to say 50-50. Last season, he had a career best as a scorer. We know the Mavericks tried to trade for him, but ultimately they traded for Daniel Gafford in a different deal altogether. And Kuzma, obviously, he declined to be traded to Dallas. I would assume that the Wizards won't be able to trade for as generous of a package involving Kuzma this year than they would have last year. And that's just due to Kuz's drop in production from last year to this year. Second question from OK Now. I can get how talent impacts the Wizards' offense, but why are they so poor defensively? Opposing teams run basic sets they know are going to break them down, and the Wiz have no answers. Is that coaching, development? It's not just Poole playing old defense. Okay. So, I will say that the Wizards' poor defense, it ultimately comes down to the fact that this is a very, very young team. The Wizards have started some of the youngest lineups in recent memory. I know Bilal Koulibaly showing some promise as a defender, Alex Sarr as well, but it's going to take a good 2-3 years before we start seeing the Wizards make some strides in the rankings, barring some major trade. And here's the third question. Does Dawkins, meaning Will Dawkins, the GM, offer any feedback or commentary on the state of the team or roster? Even understanding the rebuild, the product / performance is just bad all around. I mean, I understand why Chris Miller and Drew Gooden are making ball jokes in the first half. All right, so I'll just answer about Will Dawkins. There are a lot of teams in the NBA where you have a president of basketball operations who looks at strategy, and then a GM who does the nitty gritty trades in and of itself. I'm pretty sure that Dawkins would be offering feedback and commentary on specific players whom the Wizards could get in a trade for, let's say, Valanciunas or Kuzma. Now going to, let's say, the Mystics for a second, where Michael Winger is also the president of basketball operations, right? He wants to have a rather flat organizational structure. So, Jamila Weidman, their new GM, and Sidney Johnson, a new head coach, are both reporting to him as opposed to, let's say, Johnson reporting to Weidman, which is how most basketball teams do their organization. And when you're talking about, how poor the Wizards are in terms of team construction, to this point, it is by design. It's not like the Wizards have made any bad decisions that they regret. to this point. Right now, I mean, it doesn't seem like any one player, minus if you want to say Koo, sure, go ahead. It's hard to say that a player is, just pissed off to be in Washington at the moment. They all know that this team is going to be bad in the standings for the short-term future. So we'll leave it at that. Let me go ahead and segue into, let's say, a couple Mystics pieces that I wrote in the last couple of days. I'll start with the most important topic, which is on whether if you read at bulletsforever.com, there's a piece entitled, "Could the Mystics feasibly trade for a younger star with Elena Delle Donne, other veterans, and their existing draft picks?" In short, the WNBA had a major blockbuster trade this past weekend that was involving the Storm, the Sparks, and the Aces. So Jewel Lloyd, who wanted to get out of Seattle, she's going to Vegas. Kelsey Plum, who has been the star point guard for the Aces, is going to the Sparks. And the Seattle Storm had to facilitate this in such a manner where they're getting the number 2 overall pick in this year's WNBA draft from the Sparks, and they let go of Lloyd. In my opinion, I think, the Storm are starting some kind of a tweak, or I don't want to say rebuild just yet, but I think they're getting the least amount of talent in this transaction. And that led me to the piece asking the question of, okay, could the Mystics make a trade for a younger star with their current assets? We know Delle Donne's likely on her way out. Ariel Atkins is likely on the trade block, and perhaps the same with Brittany Sykes. And they have the number 4 and number 6 overall picks. Maybe they could move up in the draft. They're not going to get the number 2 pick now. We wrote a piece earlier about the number 1 pick in Dallas. I'll leave it at that. Or maybe there's another younger star the Mystics could make a trade for. Keep in mind, like deconstructing a team, it just means you're moving on from one set of players to another. It doesn't mean that a team has to suck from day one. So that was why I wrote that piece. Now, let me just check out some of the comments. So, OK Now wrote this. Maybe I'm confused. A core of Edwards, Austin, Sykes, and Atkins is a nice base to build a WNBA roster. I'm not factoring age or anything, as I don't know their ages. Sykes is 30. How old is Ariel Atkins, Siri? I know. So Atkins is 28, just in the prime of her career. Austin, I think, is like 25, and Edwards is, 23? It is a decent cast, but let me continue on with this comment. Austin being healthy is an issue, but I like her. In my opinion, Atkins and Sykes can make some noise. I still say Edwards was more talented than Angel Reese, but you cannot deny that Reese is tenacious. What's missing is a true big, a dynamic point guard who can create and challenge the pace. Sharpshooting and ideally an athletic wing like Ariel Powers. Ariel Powers is on the 2019 championship team. Seems like a lot, but giving up any of those 4 doesn't make sense to me. That tells you that I'm in a school. Anyway, here's my reaction to this comment. If Mike Tebow were still the GM of the Mystics, you have a point. Edwards, Austin, Sykes, and Edwards, Austin, Sykes, and Atkins. I'm getting my names confused. They do make a decent core. But, the Mystics don't have the number 1 pick, and where they could presumably get Paige Beckers outright. And for whatever reason, Michael Winger decided that he wants to build the team his way, which is why Mike Tebow is no longer here, right? Um, and since the Mystics only have the number 4, number 6 picks, if you're going to get an all-star player on the team, you're probably going to have to get to make a trade involving some combination of Sykes, Atkins, or Deladon, plus some of those picks. I'm just saying. Skins Diehard 2T. He wrote a comment on this piece saying, sad going back to the Trudy days of haplessness and before that, 1997 to 2000. So Trudy Lacey was the GM and head coach of the Mystics before Mike Tebow came in 2013. Those were some sorry ass years. Not gonna lie. Having said that, Lacey entered a she entered a shitty situation. And that was due to the previous front office of Angela Taylor, the GM, and Julie Plank, the head coach. Both of them were let go due to cost cutting. That was the kind of era the W was in at that time. I would say the Mystics have had a pretty poor pass before Mike Tebow came in. So you can say what you want about Tebow overstaying his welcome since he was here for over a decade, but the only reason why they've been a consistent winner is because he's been there so long. I would hope that Sidney Johnson is not the next Trudy Lacey, and Jamila Weidman for that matter. And Skins Diehard also writes, unfortunately, there is no young star player in the league that a team would give up for. Our players are draft picks. I did reply to this comment, but just to recap it, on the surface, because it's assumed that the Mystics are going to completely blow it up, it's assumed that, hey, the Mystics have nobody that anyone wants. But if star players want to come to Washington, for example, let's say that's how Elena Deladon came, by the way, that's going to give the current Mystics front office some leverage in trades. That's just how it works. And City of Oaks writes that the Mystics are all in for Juju Watkins. She's just if I recall, she's just like a sophomore, right? So I'm going to say, I just don't see any team trying to tank for a player 2-3 years ahead from now. And also, the WNBA is in a very fluid situation. There's going to be more teams in the next. You already have 13 teams this year, one of whom hasn't played yet, and next year you have 2 extra teams. The talent is going to be diluted some over the next few years. So it's hard for me to believe that the Mystics will be the worst team in the league this year, next year, and the year after that. Expansion is going to be a counterweight to it. And I think that maybe why, to Skins Diehard's point, the Mystics were really bad those first few years, but as the talent got diluted with more teams coming in, your team somehow gets better. So it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. Let's see if I can find another comment here that's worth talking about. Now I'm starting to see more people getting into the stream, so welcome aboard, guys. I'll react to some of these comments in a little bit on this live here on the Coos article. All right. Now, there is another article I wrote yesterday about Mike Tebow. He's found a landing spot as well. So last season he was the GM of the Mystics. He got let go. Now he is none other than the head coach of the Belgium women's national basketball team. Overall, my reaction is I'm happy for him. Let's just start with former Mystic star Emma Meesman. He drafted her back in 2013. She didn't just turn out to become a starter. She came out to be an all-star, and she's now one of the top players in the world. Several Belgian players on the national team have played for the Mystics, like Kim Mestdag and Julie Van Loo from last year. So I will say things are coming full circle with the Belgian Cats and Mike Thibault. It is. I think it's just right that he is getting a chance to coach this team because, yes, he did draft and develop the top player on the team, but her improvement, her meaning Meesman, has had a residual effect on some of these other players of her generation, like a Van Loo and Kim Mestdag is no longer on the national team, but there are other players as well. If you read Sporza, which is a Dutch language site in Belgium, there are articles that written by their commentators saying, "Hey, that this is like a last dance for them," and not just for Thibault because he's already almost 75, but the 2028 Olympics is it's going to be like a last dance for Meesman as well. I mean, it still feels like yesterday when she got drafted and played for the Mystics during those early rebuilding years, and now she's a contender to be the EuroLeague MVP, and it's hard to find anybody in the WNBA who would say that she's not one of the absolute best players in the world. I'll leave it at that. I can obviously write more, but I don't think that you guys would have the patience, and it's at this point it's not really relevant to our site. So we'll just leave it there. So I did check my X account earlier this week. Not earlier this week, earlier today. And I believe that the Rising Stars list is out. And I'll write about this after the stream. So Shams Charania of ESPN did publish the player poll for the Rising Stars Challenge. And here's some good news. As shitty of a season the Wizards are having this year, there are going to be 3 Wizards in the player pool for the Rising Stars Challenge. With the NBA All-Star Game format changing, and there's now a chance that one of these Rising Star teams could, make it to Sunday. Hey, this is actually going to be a pretty cool thing for us. So for the rookies, Bub Carrington and Alex Sarr both made the pool. And for the sophomores, Bilal Coulibaly naturally has made the pool. So we have 3 players who will be in the Rising Stars Challenge, and they have a shot to make it to Sunday and be in the All-Star game. So I know All-Star games are something they get lampooned about by NBA fans, but for the Wizards, who've lost, 14 straight now? They play tomorrow against the Raptors. You lose that, that's 15. The Lakers are on Thursday, the very next day, and if you lose that one too, you're going to tie that franchise record of 16 straight losses, 3 times in just roughly a 365-day period. That sucks. But for the Rising Stars Challenge, I would say this is pretty cool. Since we'll have 3 players for All-Star Friday. Okay, I'm now going to go ahead and take a quick peek at the comments for the Kuzma article today on his comments regarding being more assertive, and Kuz has not did not say let me rephrase. Kuz said after the Phoenix game that he hasn't had any conversation with the front office about trades. Okay. So I'll just read the comments one by one here. Gabo Shin wrote this about half an hour ago. Well, last night Kuzma was assertive and terrible, but what does Kuz actually want? Well, a couple years ago, Kuz wanted the money. He got paid, right? And NBA players deserve to get the money they get. He knew the Wizards were rebuilding when he signed a contract. He declined the trade to the win now Mavs when he had a chance. So what does he want now? My feeling is Kuz would probably want to play for a team where he has a smaller role, but smaller role meaning he's not going to be the guy, right? But Kuz would be on a team that's going to the playoffs. He really hasn't been on a contending team since he was on the Lakers for that 2020 championship run. It's pretty clear to me that is what Kuz would want if he doesn't see eye to eye on the team direction of the Wizards. All right, so Stanley 2018, Alex, Bub, and Bilal were selected to take part in the Rising Stars, so we talked about that. So we will post on that later in roughly 25-ish minutes, maybe within 10 minutes after the stream, whenever that is. Okay. So, Paint King, it probably serves everyone better if Kuzma plays better and fills up the stat sheet. If that means being more assertive, getting his own, so be it. He will be a better trade target and possibly get more in return. If that sort of play is somehow hurting Dawkins and Winger's plans, if he becomes a poor teammate, then I'm sure they will do whatever they have to do, whether that's bench him or trade him for what they can get. You're seeing that with Jimmy Butler in Miami, right? Butler's trade value is going down. I don't see the Wizards making a trade for him, to be clear. But if let's say, I'm not going to insinuate that Kuz is going to become a poor teammate, but let's say he does, just for the sake of argument. That's going to shoot down his trade value more than his not as great season statistically this year, at least in my opinion. Let's see. Agent Zero, spelled Zeeroh. Kuzma is not good enough to be a cancer, nor should his mother be meddling. That said, the team really doesn't need to be holding on to him and letting this spiral. Find a team that will bet on him bouncing back and send him for whatever they can offer. Yeah. I agree with that. Keep in mind, I think the player the Wizards could get the most in return for is Jonas Valanciunas, not Kuzma. Last year, if the Wizards did trade for Kuzma, I think they would have gotten a fair return. It's fair to say this year they're not going to get as much. As for moms, well, moms, not meaning my mom, but mothers in general, they're always going to be protective of their kids. I will just say that that at least in his mother's case, she's just on social media and more active about it. I did click on the link of this X post, and Greg Finberg already wrote about that not too long ago. Student driver, let's see. Oh wait, that was a reply. It looks like a reply to Agent Zero, but it was not. So maybe next year, Wiz writes that I predict Kuz will not be traded. I think that Winger and Dawkins are just holding out hope that he'll regain some value in the future, and they won't dump him for that. I can go either way with that one. but I tend to be on the side of the Wizards are they're not going to get as much for Kuzma as they could have last year if Kuz went to the Mavs. Ace of Stripe also has a pretty good comment here, and this is in response to let's see, the original post was by Dem J, who wrote about actually, wait, let me backtrack. Maybe next year, Wiz. We've already talked about that post about Winger and Dawkins holding out hope. So here's Ace of Stripe, who is replying more or less in that thread. This is really about Kuz not playing well and looking for a reason, wanting to believe the team is partially to blame. Probably this is the more important part of this comment, which I agree with. I also think Poole finding his game pushes Kuzma down a bit. These players thrive off their egos, and it must be a challenge to manage for the coaches. Thinking about it, let him cook a bit, and we can make a trade later if nothing worthwhile emerges. Who knows? Poole could get dealt, and that would change a lot for Kuz. Well, that is an interesting point. I would say Kuz is not going to have as much stats if Poole is having the season he's having. And to be fair, Poole's doing pretty decently this season. He did say something to the effect of, "I feel like I'm an all-star this season based on his production," and I will respectfully disagree because the Wizards are playing so poorly, but in the standings. But individually, Poole has certainly made some strides. Now, could I see Poole getting traded? I think that I don't see him getting traded this season. Next season, who knows? And of course, at the end of the day, when it comes to Kuz, I get that his numbers aren't what they were last year, but I think the moral of the story is if Kuzma is going to get traded, you would hope that it happens this trade deadline, so it frees up more minutes for someone like Alex Sarr, for example. So we'll. Okay, so I've gone through a lot of the comments. Let me refresh the page just one more time, and let me see if anyone else has chimed in the comments of this Kuzma post from today. All right, so TS35 has written in a comment. This will be the last comment I'll respond to, just because. Let's just be honest. I want to get out of here too. But more importantly, my laptop is starting to run out of battery. I'm below 20%. So here's TS35's comment. If past this prologue, the Wiz are going to hold on to Kuz, because even with their lowered trade demands for him, I still don't know if they're going to get what they're asking for. In the past, when that has happened, they have held on to the player. There are also too many other similar options position-wise that could be available. Saturated market plus Kyle's tepid play means no good offers are coming. Personally, I think it's time to move on. I don't think he fits in with what they're doing. He doesn't think he fits in with what they're doing. Who knows what the Wizards think, but it seems like a good time to part ways if at all possible. I'll take a couple high seconds in 25 or 26 at this point. 25 or 26 would be the later first round. It's the same shame Brogdon is injured, and who knows what's going to happen with JV. I still could see Brogdon get traded though. Um, yeah. Um, I don't think more if Poole gets moved. Uh, he's still not I want long term, but his numbers are good. If there are teams looking for studs but can't afford the stud price, he could be an option. So maybe that's an open question. And maybe I'll make a post tomorrow about it. Do you guys think Jordan Poole should get traded? He has been one of the more prolific 3-point shooters in the NBA this entire season. His efficiency has improved. Just saying. But if you trade Poole and you keep Kuzma, Kuzma's numbers may go up, but would he want to continue playing for a losing team? I'm just saying. All right. So all right. So I've read the comments. I know there's some probably replies to replies. I won't get into those. But I think that's going to go. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this live. Just so you know, we plan on holding more of these lives on a regular basis. I like to have one of these once a week. Um, I know I've been doing the last couple of them just to get things started. But hey, you may start seeing more of our writers doing these. Um, I do plan on doing them on days when the Wizards aren't playing. I have my reasons behind it. Um, so first, just go ahead and let me know whether it's by emailing me at alienthedmv@gmail, or just let me know in a comment whether on this Kuzma piece or the live piece, which is right where you can see the embed, right? Um, how often would you like me to host lives, whether it's me or, you know, Kevin's usually working 9 to 5 straight, or let's say Greg, for example, or Marco. Marco will be at the Mystics press conference on Thursday. Um, just let us know what kind of format you'd like. Would you like a mailbag? Maybe a real time reaction to some of your comments? All ideas are welcome. And also, as I mentioned early in the live, yes, I soft launched a YouTube channel. So for the site, not for me personally. And you'll be able to see our streams on the YouTube channel as well as on playback. Um, in short, this is where the future of media is. We know that the written pieces aren't going away. That won't, but there is a lot more emphasis on video content and of course with the many podcasts that are out there. So that wraps it up. So I'm Albert, the site manager of Bullets Forever. Tomorrow the Wizards will play the Toronto Raptors. So we hope you come back in for the stream here. I probably won't be on there. It'll likely be Kevin and Renzo. And we'll see you guys next time. Have a good day, guys.